sketch and a reflection on the life of Teresa of Avila. Teresa was born in an age of exploration, as well as political, social, and religious upheaval. It was the 16th century, a time of turmoil and reform. She was born after Columbus had opened up a way to the New World, but before the Protestant Reformation, and she died almost 20 years after the close of the Council of Trent. The gift of God to Teresa, in and through which she became holy and left her mark on the church and the world, is threefold. She was a woman, she was a contemplative, and she was an active reformer. As a woman, Teresa stood on her own 2 feet, even in the man's world of her time. She was her own woman, sometimes to the disgrit, sometimes to the anger of her very strict parents. She entered the Carmelites nonetheless, when the parents opposed that move. She was a person wrapped up not so much in silence, but as a mystery, beautiful, talented, outgoing, adaptable, affectionate, courageous, enthusiastic. She was totally human. But like Jesus, she was also a mystery of paradoxes, wise yet practical, intelligent yet much in tune with her experience, a mystic yet an energetic reformer, a holy woman. Teresa was a woman for God, a woman of prayer, discipline, and compassion. Her heart belonged to God. Her ongoing conversion was an arduous, lifelong struggle involving ongoing mortification and suffering. She was misunderstood, misjudged, and opposed in her efforts at reform. Yet she struggled on, courageous and faithful. She struggled with her own mediocrity, her illness, her opposition. And in the midst of all of this, she clung to God in life and in prayer. Her writings on prayer and contemplation are drawn from her own experiences, powerful, practical, and graceful. She was a woman of prayer, a woman for God. Teresa was also a woman for others. Though she was a contemplative, she spent much of her time and energy seeking to reform herself and the Carmelite community, to lead them back to the full observance of their traditional rule. She founded over a half-dozen new monasteries. She traveled, wrote, fought, always to renew, to reform. In herself, in her prayer, in her life, in her efforts to reform, in all the people she touched, she was a woman for others, a woman who inspired and gave life. Having struggled with illness most of her life, in large part because of her own self-mortification, she died at the age of 67. Her last words were, "My Lord, it is time to move on. Well then, may your will be done. O my Lord and my spouse, the hour that I have longed for has come. It is time to meet one another." In 1622, 40 years after her death, she was canonized by Pope Gregory XV. She was named the patroness of Spain in 1627. Almost 350 years later, 1970, Pope Paul VI declared her to be a doctor of the Church, making her the first woman to be given that distinction. Teresa is revered as the doctor of prayer. The mysticism in her writings exerted a formative influence upon many theologians in the following centuries. Teresa is regarded as one of the foremost writers on mental prayer, and her position among writers on mystical theology is unique. Her writings on this theme came from her personal experiences of prayer. Her definitions for prayer have been used in the Catechism of the Catholic Church. Teresa wrote, "Contemplative prayer, in my opinion, is nothing other than a close sharing between friends. It means frequently taking time to be alone with the God whom we know loves us." Throughout her writings, Teresa returns to the image of watering one's garden as a metaphor for mystical prayer. In a prayer that was attributed to her, she summed up her spirituality as follows: "Let nothing disturb you. Let nothing make you afraid. All things are passing. God alone never changes. Patience gains all things. If you have God, you will want for nothing. God alone